So we were talking for days and hours, and I'm just like, what is taking us so long to take this thing to the next step? And so his birthday was coming up, and I just said, hey, let me take you out for your birthday. So I had to just, I'm like, let me just try to do something. And you said yes.
I was like, yeah, it felt kind of awkward. Like, okay, she's going to take me out for our first date, but I was like, okay, whatever. It's my birthday.
Yeah.
Like, you can make an exception there. And we went out.
We went out.
And
we went out.
We went out. And it almost went out.
And then it just... I like that. It
almost went out. So... Gosh, I don't even want to go. We tell this story so often, and we get to this point.
But we finally come to a conclusion, haven't we, that you were wrong.
Okay.
So we were going to meet. I had a date planned out for us, and our meeting place was on the train.
Or on the train platform.
On the train platform by the conductor.
Right, by the conductor. So when the train pulls up, we're going to be standing where the conductor will be.
In New York City, though. I have to say that. In New York City.
New York City.
Okay, that's important. So the date night comes. I'm all cute and I'm ready to go. Like finally.
Me too.
And so
Hi.
I come downstairs and I stand. Can I say where?
Yeah.
I stand in the middle of the platform.
Okay.
And I am waiting.
And she's waiting.
I'm waiting for a while.
So I get all done up, right? Have my hair shaved and everything. And I go to the train station. And I actually started like a couple stations up. So I had to ride down, get off.
Oh, that's irrelevant. So tell me, where did you go?
The conductor. And so I'm standing at the front of the platform because, in my understanding, the conductor's at the front of the train. And so I was at the front of the platform. And I'm waiting. And I'm waiting.
So we're both waiting for each other.
And waiting.
He's in the front and I'm in the middle, waiting for each other. We're on the same platform. Just yards away from each other. Waiting.
But I'm wired a little differently.
But me, I will wait.
I'm a stickler for time.
Stickler for time, and I'm a little loosey-goosey.
Our first conflict happened
to be around.
As I was like, you know what? I knew it.
Playing games?
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. See, this is why I stopped. This is why I stopped dating and going out in the first place. So I just left. I was about to walk out, and the exit is in the middle. Is in the middle of the platform.
I'm standing.
So I'm walking to the exit, and there she is. I'm like,
and so hold on. He said, there she is. Now what I'm thinking is, well, I'm a little bit more loosey-goosey with time, but where we met is where I live. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe something came up or whatever. He didn't send me a message on my phone, so I'll just wait. And I'm just waiting, like, oh, kind of listening to music.
No big deal.
And I'm gonna just keep waiting. And here he comes down. So for me, I'm excited when I see you, like, oh, he's here. And he's pissed. So we get into our first disagreement.
It wasn't an
argument. But it was a firm disagreement.
Yeah.
And it's like, I thought we were by the conductor. And I'm like, I am by the conductor. He's like, the conductor is in the front of the train. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's in the middle. You must have just feeling like Miss Girl's not smart.
I was thinking I was upset because I'm like, I don't like to be late for things. And
I'm like, well, in New York City, if you tell someone meet me by the conductor, he's like, we say that's the person in the middle. And I'm like, nobody cares about the guy in the front of the train. That's the driver. Like, no, he's not important.
So I was heated. And so I just kind of was like, okay, do I stay here? Do I go home?
The date.
There's a misunderstanding. So I'm trying to calm myself down.
He just stops talking.
So I'm just standing there. We're just kind of standing next to each other. I'm not looking at her.
It goes cold, like.
And then.
Ice.
Ice, baby.
And I'm thinking, this guy's really uptight. So I was thinking, like, oh, we was lost in translation. That's how I was thinking, like, oh.
The conductor's in the middle. Gosh.
And I'm thinking, like,
how could she?
And I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, that's what you think. That's what I think. It doesn't matter. Let's just have our date. And he's just.
Well, I was getting.
You're in your head.
Because to me, we were already like, late, and so it just was like, okay. So I had to like really allow myself to just be like, hey, it's not a big deal. And so you decided to put your headphones in.
I was so uncomfortable. I didn't know what to do because I'm like, well, just like we were talking about when women are uncomfortable, like how do you get away? I'm like, well, I can't just like leave. So what do I do? Should I end the date? And so I decided to put in my headphones and listen to music because he's not talking and just start humming.
And so she's listening to music and she starts humming. And I'm a music producer, so I'm like listening to her voice like, whoa, she has a beautiful humming voice. And I was like, it just kind of softened
and he
me
softens up.
Melted like butter.
The train comes,
And
I take off my headphones.
We hop on
And the night
we went to dinner,
just
we ate,
beautiful.
and everything's going perfect. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, this is the one.
It was just awesome. Then he found out I'm West Indian. He's like, oh, speaking your accent. Then I found out he's African. I'm like, yes. and
everything's going perfect.
It's perfect. It's just like where. Oh, and something else. Also, he said,
I got a little bit of time.
Oh God. He's like, he told me that you were celibate.
Okay, yeah.
That's important. That was huge.
Yeah.
And I was like, celibate? Is this a joke? Guys like that don't exist.
And I'm like, well, yeah, he is.
And that's what I was thinking, like, but I wasn't upset about it. I was just like, this is beautiful, you know? This is great. And so
we're both excited. We're both like, man, this must be it. And I'm thinking, there's only one more thing I got to find out.
There's only one question.
And once I find out the answer, man, we're on our way. This is my wife. And I'm like, hey, you know.
Do you go to...
Yeah, you
asked
go
the
to
question.
church. Do you go to church?
And I was like...
Hey.
I felt like that question came out of left field. Like, what?
Well, I was just trying to close the deal. I was just ready to get married.
Right? He's about to propose, right? Then he's
I
like...
was, hey.
Do you go to... He's like, do you go to church? And I was like, oh, no. I guess that was my response. Just like, where'd that question come from? Because we hadn't really talked about... You weren't really talking about your faith or anything that strong.
Yeah, and I know I didn't want to jump in it like that, so that was the only way I knew how to introduce it.
Yeah.
So I thought I was
even while we were talking for almost a month, you never talked about like you were in church planting, and you didn't say any of those things.
Yeah.
And so when you asked that question, it was like, oh, where'd that come from? And I was like, no. And I, you know, as you'll know later, I had some church issues with church. I had issues with the church, and so that kind of came out.
Yeah.
And you sensed that.
So I was like,
and he was like, then he shut it down.
I just kept it 100. I kept it really real.
This is what he said to me.
I was like, listen, I'm honestly, like in this season of my life, I'm trying to find a wife. And, you know, I'm looking for somebody who's also Christian. So the most that we ever can be right now is friends.
He said that to me and I was like, what?
Put in the friend zone.
He put me in the friend zone on our first date.
Boundaries.
I was shocked.
Guardrails.
Let me tell you, I've never been on a date like that or met a guy that like that. And I'm like, what just happened? I was like, wait a minute, what's going on?
Listen, that's how I felt too. I'm like, everything's going perfect. God, what just happened? God, you set me up. Like, how could you possibly do this? You gave me the perfect woman, and then you didn't like, you know, y'all didn't introduce yourselves beforehand, like.
And I was thinking, like, what's wrong with this guy? This is different, and I liked you even more.
But I think the cool part about it was
I really liked you even more. I'm like, oh man, gotta get this guy.
You didn't tell me that. I became your project.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna get him.
So
like,
that's part. I mean, so the rest of the night.